Broadcasting live from our lovely hobbit holes in the Shire and the plain of Middle-earth, it's Tap Tap Concede, and it's a very special Tap Tap Concede this week because I am joined with our guests from the Lord of the Rings Tales of Middle-earth pre-release. But before we get to hanging out with them and having a wonderful casual chat, a word from our sponsors. This show is brought to you by CardKingdom.com. They're a great place. They're a kingdom of cards. They're a kingdom of tautologies, and they're very, very patient. Thank you, Kevin. All right. If you want to order some cards from CardKingdom.com, you should definitely do that. You can use our affiliate code /LRR and say Loading Ready Run sent me button, please, and they will send a button in with your orders. Singles anywhere in the world. Sealed product anywhere in the contiguous American states of America. And that's about it for that. Yes. All right. And our second sponsor, Patreon.com. Thank you so much for your support of our Patreon. We literally could not do this without you, and it means the world to us. So if you're interested in being a patron, please check it out on patreon.com/loadingreadyrun. All right. With the sponsor biz out of the way, I am joined by Chase.
Hello. Hi. I'm excited to be here.
I'm excited to have you on their podcast. Thank you for coming. And Zbexx.
Hey, everyone. Hope you're doing fabulously.
And PowrDragn.
Hello, world. Hopefully you don't get tired listening to us because we're going to ramble a lot today, I'm sure, with lots of stories.
Well, this is just the getting to know you and chill hangout podcast. I've prepared my, as usual, incredibly spicy, controversial food take question. So, everybody's been marinating on what they're willing to admit in public. But before we get to that, it's time to ask one of my favorite questions. What is your favorite bad beat story? Like, you had something set up only to get screwed at the last second by a counterspell. You fatefully misread a card that was on the board. That kind of thing. Chase?
Yeah, I have one. Back in the day, I was really into fairies. I really liked the fairy creature type, especially from Lorwyn, where they looked like bugs. So I had a fairy deck, and it was a Layla as the commander. And I put in the art of Thoughtseize that had the little fairy on it because I thought it was very thematic and I could do something with it. Well, when I was playing a game of Commander, I only had one opponent left, and I was at 2 life, and I didn't read the full text of Thoughtseize. So I was like, well, I guess I can just do something. So I cast Thoughtseize, and then I realized I had killed myself.
Yep.
And I wasn't going to take it back because how hilarious is that? You have to commit to the bit. So I committed to the bit, and I killed myself in a game of Commander with a Thoughtseize.
I think that damaging yourself because you're using a rude fairy card is quite to me thematic for Lorwyn fairies because they don't care about collateral damage.
No. I hurt myself in my confusion that day. It was rough.
Zbexx, do you have a fun bad beat story?
I do. It's more about what happened to my deck. I accidentally threw my entire library into an aisleway of a Grand Prix during competitive REL rounds. So I was seated on the end of an aisle, and I like to keep my deck on the left, and for some reason, I was doing something or emotive, and I smacked my whole deck. And it was maybe 30 minutes into the round, so enough time that people who had finished quickly were starting to mill around, and I had to quickly be like, Judge, that's my library. What do I do? But I hadn't scryed anything, so it was pretty easy just to consider it was still random and move on from there.
It's aggressively shuffled if you fling it onto the floor.
Definitely randomized at that point.
A little embarrassing, but we've lived and moved on.
Did you win the round?
I believe I did.
Yes.
There you go.
It might work for you.
So it all worked out.
As psychically damaging for you as sure it was. I'm sure it was. Perhaps your opponent was even more what could be going on now?
Mystic.
Daquan, what's your favorite bad beat story?
Mine starts with a question. Have you ever had a bad beat and didn't know it wasn't bad beat?
You're laying in bed and you're oh, I missed lethal.
Actually, in a car ride, as it turns out. So it was actually a qualifier, and I'm in the finals, and I think it's Rolling Thunder. It tells you how old I am. I was playing a qualifier when Stronghold was still a thing, but I have enough mana to hit my opponent for 3, but I'm he's at 7. I can't kill him or whatever. not realizing that I actually have a 4 damage spell in my deck I can draw next turn, right? But I kind of just like pass, whatever. I draw the 4 damage spell. I'm like, whatever, I'm going to die on the next turn. I shoot the opponent. Game's over. I shake his hand. I collect my prizes. Halfway back home in the car, I'm asleep, and I just wake up and go, damn it. Right? They're like, wait, what? And everybody's in the car going like, what? And I'm like, I could have won the damn tournament. And they're like, what? And we're like recreating it in the car and like laying stuff out and explaining. And I'm like, that's the worst situation. It's like, I could have went to the Pro Tour. Dang it. Like, so I went later, but that one sucked because in hindsight, it's just, and what's funny is nobody realized it at the time. Nobody I was with, nobody watching. It was just like,
oh, wow.
One of those things that just hit me later. It's like, that one felt real bad.
So you were asleep in the car.
Oh, yeah.
So you had your conscious mind.
Oh, yeah.
was checked out, but your subconscious was like, no, replay that board state again.
Exactly. I was like, it was crazy. So I'm like, yep, that one probably hurts the most.
Oh, that's crushing. Wow.
Yeah, it was rough.
Wow, time to I think maybe ask. So let's take it up. Let's ask a more upbeat story about like missing a chance for the Pro Tour. I was trying to think of a good question that would capture everyone's interest, but we all like to play a slightly different flavor of Magic, which is kind of what I like about Magic. The game has so much variety and there's so many different ways to play and engage with it, which is very fun for me. But at the same time, I'm like, all right, Standard on Arena, Vintage, which I'm like, I don't even know anything about. I'm not asking any questions about. Legacy. See, I didn't even get the format right.
It's a little bit different.
Well, I kind of assume that like once the cards get past a certain point, I'm not going to remember what they say. I'm a degenerate limited player, and Chase, you like Commander.
Yep.
So obviously this is like kind of varied, but what draws you to your formats? I personally like playing limited because I like drafting, because I like figuring out the draft environment, figuring out what seats open, because I feel like I've solved a Professor Layton puzzle. I'm so smart when my deck comes together. It's great, and when it didn't, it's just because the signals were messed up and it wasn't my fault. So that's what I like, and also that I only need to know what like one set of cards does. I don't have to worry about any interactions outside of that, because to me, Commander seems a little bit overwhelming. So here's my somewhat tailored question. When you have a much larger pool of cards to pull from when you're building decks, like with Standard, especially with the increased size of Standard and Legacy,
we're getting there.
And Commander, which just like makes me feel like a smooth-brained monkey. Like, what are your tips for like finding those synergies and figuring out what cards go together and like building new things and like experimenting? What makes you go with these big wide open formats?
I think for me, it's really two different things. Like because actually I'm on the Commander advisory group, so I kind of have to play some Commander. But what I really do is I treat them differently. Like for Standard, that's my like, I call it my somewhat competitive work, right? I'm making stuff for content. I'm like trying to find neat interactions, all that. But for Commander, it's very casual. Like people think because I'm on the Commander advisory group, I have these hardcore competitive Commander decks or whatever. Like not even close. Like I treat 100 card Magic super casual, big battle cruiser, dumb stuff, play big creatures I never get to play. So for me, they kind of scratch different itches, right? And I spend time during the week just building lots of decks, testing stuff, looking for different combination of things to make content for in Standard. But for Commander, I'm kind of like, let's throw caution to the wind and just do whatever, right? So it's not even really a curated experience so much in Commander for me as it is in Standard.
For Legacy, it's even though you might think having all of the cards in Magic available to you, besides a small ban list, the number of cards that are actually played in Legacy might make you feel a lot more comfortable, like looking at a draft set, because Blue, for example, Force of Will is a card that made me want to play Legacy. You get to do stuff for free? What? Cool. But, if you look at any Blue deck, they probably have Force of Will, Brainstorm, Ponder. At any given time, your Legacy deck, you could put it on a shelf, stop playing for 2 to 5 years, then show up to a Legacy tournament, which is honestly what a lot of Legacy players will do when it's in their area, pull out their deck and come and smash, because you're honing in on the converted mana cost and looking at those cards that are just the best 1, 2, and 3 drops. And then, of course, there's some Reanimator or Sneak and Show style decks that will play some of the larger, splashier cards, but they have to be really good. Like the new Atraxa recently started getting played in Sneak and Show, which is one of my favorite decks. I've still stuck with the classic Emrakul Grizzlebrand list, but once you know those, it becomes this really fun grindy format where you're top decking, you're playing your hand out, and then suddenly you're like, what's gonna happen? We know what's in each other's deck, but oh goodness. So it's exciting, but a much smaller pool than you might think, even though it is all of the cards in Magic.
For Commander, why I love Commander so much is it's such a creative format. You're open to being able to literally do pretty much anything you want. And so for me, it's kind of a mixed bag of like finding things that I like. So for instance, I've started doing this new practice where I'll make Commander decks, but I'm only allowed to use cards I already own to kind of just try and fiddle around with things and not buy stuff. Because, Magic is expensive and I love it, but I don't want to buy like 3 copies of like a $40 card. So like I'll just like take some stuff I already own, shove it in a deck and see if it works. But like for me, when it comes to deck building, I always like to encourage others to use resources online. I always encourage that because I feel like there's, because Commander is so creative, and even in the past with like more competitive formats, people had like the concept of like net decking, and you don't really see that much anymore, thankfully. But like using those resources online is so great to kind of help you get an understanding of such a broad format. Resources like Scryfall for advanced searchings are what I do typically if I'm like looking for a specific keyword, or EDHREC also is like really good to like help you just kind of get like an understanding of like the amalgamation of decks that people have created. Or even, if you're just like, man, because some people just don't like to deck build, let's be honest. Sometimes it's not that fun. Like you could just take your favorite creators list and just make that. I've had a bunch of people tell me that they've, seen somebody online and they've liked what they've done. And so they built their list and they've loved it. And that's another really great way to do that too.
Excellent. Speaking of building things, is there anything from the Lord of the Rings set that y'all are excited to build around? I'm seeing vigorous nods. So go ahead, Zbexx.
I'm definitely building the mono green Gladriel deck. I've already started asking the internets, and some of you might have replied on my post, so thank you, to card suggestions that fit the generous gift theme, that are kind of kooky. Some cards from Mirrodin Besieged, like whenever an artifact goes to the graveyard, you gain 5 life, or other things where you get to give something to opponent, like a +1/+1 counter on one of their creatures is one of the main abilities that she has. So it'll be fun and cheeky, and might run some of the popular cards in green, but we'll also run a lot of offbeat, off-the-wall cards because I like storytelling as I play Commander. If I'm going to play something that's not, this is the best deck in Legacy and this is how you win, then I want to be really thematic like that.
I feel like that's like a vibe that we could all aspire to, honestly.
Oh, yeah. For sure.
Yeah. For me, I really want to brew. I was very lucky to get a preview card for this set, and it was a legendary creature, which as a Commander player brings joy to my tender little heart. And so my preview card was King of the Oathbreakers, which funny enough cannot be an Oathbreaker for you, because he's just a ghost, and he is a spirit themed commander that is Orzhov, which is pretty odd in colors for spirits, because typically a lot of spirits tend to be in Azorius colors. And so I thought, how can I do this? And I love the fact that this card fiddles around with phasing, because phasing is such a very niche, weird mechanic in Magic, especially, that you don't really see too often. And so like I was trying to find a way to like make this a theme deck with spirits but still get that phasing. So like Teferi's Protection and like Guardian of Faith and like all these like old spells from like Onslaught or whatever that like target all your creatures on your board or stuff, so that I can like phase everything out and then get a bunch of tokens and then do stuff like Mondrak or Anointed Procession or even Kaya Geist Hunter to just get like double the amount of tokens and just do very weird niche things, and I love it so much.
Oh, I can think of fun things to do with token. Okay, so this is my thing. Is like I'm like a add more cook. I'm just like, ooh, I could put in a token sub theme. Oh, and if I'm putting in a token sub theme, I should. And this is like, so my decks always lack focus. So so basically you're starting from the point of I'm going to run everything that says phasing that's decent.
Yes.
Sort of build around that.
Yes.
Ooh,
it's fun. I love it.
Then see how far down the list you get. When an Orzhov, do you remember like from the first Ravnica set, the Orzhov mechanic was Haunt, I think?
Yeah.
Yes.
Does that count as phasing, or is that going to exile?
I don't believe
No, it
it
doesn't
counts
count
as
as phasing.
phasing.
Okay, so
Yeah.
It's treated differently because stuff
Yeah.
that phases out still keeps its stuff.
right, 'cause
Yeah,
they,
which is kind of weird.
Phasing is
counters stay on and stuff.
Yeah.
like that.
phasing is like ignore it. Literally, like I think like the reminder text is like pretend that they're not there.
It's like a somebody else's problem field from Hitchhiker's Guide.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was a lot of early rules that we hated with phasing for us OGs that played it when it first came out. It was really bad.
Oh, do you have any good phasing stories?
No, not really. It's just like the way the rules worked because like some stuff triggered when things came in and then when they left, but then other ones didn't. And they actually changed the rules at the time for how phasing worked to where
Wow.
the way they work now.
Yeah, tokens you used to those wouldn't be able to phase, but they can now, which is very important for the deck that I wanted to build. I like looked up the ruling and I was like, oh god, if they can't phase out, I'm gonna be so sad.
Well, phasing or not, I've got to phase on to my next question. I'm so good at being an interviewer. It's like so natural how all these transitions go.
Yeah.
My next question is a lore question because that is my thing. That's like one of the things that we did for this PPR is I read some of the books, as much of the books as I needed to because I did not have time to read like 1,100 pages before
Yeah,
the
it's a
PPR.
lot. It's a lot to absorb. You're not going to really like crunch that like you would for like a final exam.
No, and it's not, I would call a breezy read.
No, not at all. Not at all.
This is not just plop it down on the beach, have a beer in the sun kind of, and I'll tear through half of it kind of a book. It's like, oh wait, whose son is this again? But I was like really immersing myself I was trying to immerse myself as much as possible in the lore. So are you, is anybody here like a Lord of the Rings fan? I know pretty much everybody here has said that they've read it as a kid, and I didn't. So I'm like coming to it from new. What's your favorite like lore piece from this set?
Ooh, lore piece from the set.
Like, for example, like there's a card called Gift of Strands, and basically it's like, why is this? And there's just this whole passage in the book where Galadriel's giving everybody gifts, and she's like, what do you want, Gimli? He's like, I want some of your hair, but he says it really politely. And she's like, yeah, that's sure, absolutely. Here's a blessing for you as well. So I was like, what a weird thing to put on a card, but I kind of love that. I think this might be, it's not like a splashy card or like a beloved character, but I think this is one of my favorite just small references.
I think if there was something that stood out to me, it was that they kind of both made sure to go like deep cut kind of stuff. So like this is for like the hardcore fans. Like you'll know what this reference is or who this person is, even though they're not like huge in the story, but they're there for a few chapters and you're like, oh yeah, I remember that. But then also just fun stuff like second breakfast, right? Like you knew that had to be a thing. It's a thing you hear people joke about, whatever. So you kind of had to have a card called that. So it was kind of cool that, you know, while they still went super deep, it was like, we got to have this top level kind of fun fan servicey things too. So I think they're kind of getting people from both ends, which is kind of nice.
Nice.
I think overall they did a really nice job of fitting both flavor into the flavor text or like the reminder text on Shadowfax. But the main thing that I noticed while deck building for the pre-release, like I think it's called the Breaking of the Fellowship. It's a red mana sorcery where you make an opponent's creature fight one of their own creatures or deal damage to it equal to its power. Yeah, there it is. And I just really like that you know the strength of the ring, and not only is the ring mechanic so powerful, but you also get to see your opponent's army crumbling in on each other because of that temptation, even though you're the one who did it. But there's a lot of little hidden stuff when you think about how the mechanics work in the game. You're like, it's just like the story.
Oh.
For me, I have two things. The first one is you cannot pass, which I really, really, really like. It's like this very big, like momentous experience that we like read in the books, and like to like see it depicted, like just it's kind of like when I think about like when like Kamigawa there was like, you know, you're already dead. It's like that equivalent. Like it's like one of those like, oh, they said the thing, you know? So it's like really exciting to like have that. And the other thing that I really like most is that I believe this is for the pre-con decks. I believe that the tokens say Tolkien creature instead of like actual Token. It's like the name Tolkien. And I think that is such a cute little thing to have included, and like I was actually really surprised that they want to do something so cutesy like that, and I'm like, that makes me really happy that we have like a cute little like like name nod in such a fun way. It's just like it has a lot of like personality to it that I really like.
That's fantastic. Are you going to, I mean, you've already got the incredible Galadriel outfit, which you brought here. Do you have any more future Lord of the Rings cosplay plans based on some of the cards?
I mean, there's a lot of really pretty ones, but Galadriel was I'm an elf girl at heart. I've always been, when I got into magic, the forests naturally called to me. So currently that's my main one, and then we might be looking towards the next set by the time things come about.
Oh, that's true. That's true. Any commanders caught your eye aside from, like, you talked about the one that you were like gonna build a deck around, but is there anything else you're looking at and going, dang, that is sweet as hell in this set?
I don't know yet, which is not a really great answer. It's just I see like broad strokes of things that I appreciate in terms of mechanics, but I haven't found a legendary creature that has really hit home for me. Like I love seeing the food mechanic come back. I like food tokens. I think they're cute. I think they're flavorful and fun. I know that in the precons we saw like we got another gilded goose and stuff like that. And even we have another birds of paradise, and it's just I don't know why I think it's so fun, but like making a niche token kind of work so perfectly in a set like this inspires me a little bit. Like I thought maybe doing something like flickery with like Samwise, but having like food token synergies in there. Maybe doing like an Academy manufacturer type thing, like doing flickering, but only just to get a bunch of food. What I'm going to do with that, I don't know. Like I could do like an Altar of the Brood effect where, food enters and people mill a card, and then I can just keep flickering to get more food to get people to mill more. So like they're starving. Like, well, I'm a beautiful banquet in front of me, but I'm trying to figure it out.
That's one way to look at it.
Yeah, I'll just starve them out.
Wow.
Yeah.
That like brings a whole new meaning to millstone.
Mealstone.
Yeah.
I see what you did there.
Anything else spicy catching your eye from the set?
For me, it was more, it wasn't even really about commanders as much as it was about parts for other decks, right? I think there's a lot where you just go like, oh yeah, that probably fits here. Maybe I can put this into a deck. Like the Aragorn and Arwen Wed. Like as soon as they previewed that, I'm like, oh, I have a deck with +1/+1 counters. Like it gains a bunch of life. It's a big creature. Like this would be really cool to throw in there. But like, I'm not going to go back and build a deck around it, but I have a Hamza deck that this fits perfectly into. Then I'm like, okay, I'm going to earmark that one. That's one of the ones I got to pick up. So I think there's like 6 or 7 cards as I kind of went through the previews and we're just like, oh yeah, that one. I can put this in this deck. Looking for big creatures from the set that fit into like my Rith the Awakener deck.
Right.
Something like that. So lots of cool stuff that can do big things, but don't necessarily seem overpowering, which is really nice. Because I think that's one thing we're starting to encounter somewhat in Commander games is some people are trying to just drive to do the biggest, best thing. It's like, well, still, you can do a big thing, but make it fun and entertaining on the way there. And like this card fits that perfectly for me.
I will say one more thing about the cosplay. So you have seen it if you've looked at the Loading Ready Run pre-release stuff. I made the overcoat, the circlet, and the dress is not something that I made. It's not my creation, but I did source fabric months before seeing any of the cards, and I have this whole elaborate bodice gown plan that had I not been traveling to so many other fabulous Magic events, I would have had time to create. So my Galadriel cosplay will be probably a long work in progress and eventually be something that I can take to non-Magic shows that other people can appreciate. So I have a lot of stuff that I'm like, oh, I do have that fabric sitting at home. That's amazing.
Oh. That's fantastic. So keep checking back in and see the evolution. But if you are interested in seeing the incredible cosplay, please check out our VOD, which is over on our Twitch page, or the replay when it goes live on this YouTube channel. All right. That was some good Magic questions, but now it's time to get into the casual chit chat. Some questions that I always prepare. So I like to say, what's your favorite band? Because that really, I like to get to know people by asking that. It was the first thing I asked Chase when we sat down to do the crack pack. I was like, what's your favorite band right now? My favorite band, I have 2. My forever favorite band is a electronic duo by the name of Boards of Canada. They make very chilled out music. Just like good beeps and boops. They've been around forever. Like I did not get on the ground floor. Their first album came out in like 1998 or something. But you can go back and listen to it. And then suddenly a lot of albums that came out afterwards make sense. You're like, oh, this is where they got those ideas from. So I really like Boards of Canada. And my other favorite band is King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard.
I've heard of them.
I've heard of them, but never heard anything they've done. But
Oh.
I've heard of them.
They have a very, very discography. This is not a King Gizzard podcast, but later, if you're interested, I'll try to recommend an album because they've put out like 20 or something like that. They've only been around for 10 years. Yeah, people when that card came up,
Yep,
people were like, "Whoa,
It's a wizard lizard.
It's a lizard wizard, Kathleen, like that thing that you like." I'm like, "It is like that thing I like." Thank you. All right, so Chase, what are you vibing on right now?
So my current favorite band is a band called Ghost, and that's always a very interesting conversation to have with people because they look terrifying, but they are not at all.
Okay, I know all about Ghost, but do you want to just recount the Ghost vibe and gimmick for people?
Yes. So Ghost was initially an anonymous band. So it was just a bunch of people, like they're a Swedish band that dresses up as a satanic pope and faceless. Yeah, I know, right? It's weird sounding. And they were just completely anonymous. They wore masks on stage. Even the main lead singer, Tobias, would wear a full prosthetic mask, so it would change the face structure that he had. And he would be called like Papa Emeritus, and it would go like, different, like Papa Emeritus, like 2, 3, 4, and so on.
There's a lot of Ghost
There's
lore.
a lot of ghost lore, but pretty much they're no longer anonymous because of a lawsuit that they had. So we now know who they are. And basically it's just a group of like people who are LARPing on stage, and their concerts are called rituals. And the whole premise of the band is that they are a satanic church trying to convert people to join their religion through rock and roll, but they're being very blatant about it. And it sounds really weird.
Honestly,
That's like if your parents found that they come to you like, are you okay? Is this a cry for help?
Yeah.
Like
Oh, it's so great. I love them.
their music is like, despite this description, is like honestly pretty like uplifting for like metal music. Like to me, it's like like you're gonna be fine. You're gonna do your thing.
I love that uplifting metal music.
But it actually really is. Like if you wanted like a very good reference here without clicking away, I would say the best visual description of Ghost is the Secret Lair Micaeus the Unhallowed art, because it looks just
Okay,
like
that's fair.
it just looks like Papa. But like they're a very weird, like a lot of their music is about like, the hypocrisies within religion, and how religion can use shame as a tool, and how they're trying to be open and loving and like, welcoming you. And they have a lot of different songs that kind of portray that. Like that is a very clear depiction of what he is, though. And a lot of it's really, really good too. They released a cover album recently. And they did a cover album. One of the songs was by ABBA, Tina Turner.
Oh, geez.
One of them was Iron Maiden. So like it's a mixed bag, and
that guy, like, he can really sing really well.
He is
I can get behind that.
phenomenal.
Okay.
They're so great. I cannot recommend them enough. They're probably my favorite band currently. I've been to one ritual. I hope to go to another very soon.
I love this having a concert. It's a ritual.
Yeah,
I love it. I love it.
There's a whole theme.
Cameron, who is in the PPR with us, went to see Lingua Ignota. I don't know. Do you know who Lingua Ignota
I do
is?
not.
You might like her music. It's sort of like religious from the other end, but she had her whole concert styled like a rural revival church thing.
Oh, that's cool.
It was very cool. So it was very like kind of vibes, but it was more just like fuck all the haters, I will burn you, right? Lingua Ignota is great.
I was say, being from the southern U.S., I feel like I've seen too many of those in person. So
This is a subversion of that. So, but all right, Zbexx, what kind of music are you vibing on?
Switching gears, I'm very much a beats queen. So I listen to a lot of Missy Elliott or, early 2000s hip hop and pop. She
I knew
never
there's
gets
a reason we got along.
Yeah, she never gets skipped on my playlist. And then besides that, I listen to a lot of EDM, that electronic dance music. I'm definitely a rave baby, or maybe now a rave mom. But I love anything with about 120 beats per minute or 124 beats per minute. It's very strange, but as a musical person, I can just tell when it's got that rhythm, and I just like moving and grooving and can get anything done, or can do any stream, or like just like driving in my car when I've got that bass going. So I can't think of a particular EDM band. Justice is on my playlist a lot, classic French EDM stuff. So yeah, I listen to a lot of just feel good, vibing
Early
music.
2000s, you listened to a lot of Ludacris, didn't you?
I do.
I knew you did.
You know, my necklace is so heavy it feels like a goblin hanging from my neck. Yeah,
Exactly.
We there.
That's funny.
Excellent.
I don't know. I probably have two answers too. Like if I'm like listening to older stuff, Offspring when it comes on, I still really enjoy that. But there's a newer, I guess you want to call them a band, that's kind of like a side project for Bruno Mars. It's a group called Silk Sonic.
I've heard it.
It's
Yes.
Bruno Mars and Anderson .Paak, and they do really cool, like almost like throwback sound stuff, but with like a new flavor to it. Mm-hmm. And they have really, like even their videos that they do for them are like, they have one, it's almost like a Motown style song that has all the bad like leisure suits and whatever. Like it's great. Like if you haven't heard them, if you like either of those artists, totally worth listening to. It's a whole different feel of music, and it's so much fun. Every song is great, and they're both super talented. So I mean, not a surprise.
Yes. Very, yeah. Just breezy, wonderful summertime music. Makes you feel good. I'm a curmudgeon, though, and I want music that makes me feel bad, because that's what my inner monologue sounds like. So all my music is depressing.
I think everything I listen to, I think is usually pretty upbeat, friendly, whatever. Like, I think it's just the way I've always been with everything as a whole.
I can tell from your demeanor. You're just like a...
Yeah, it's kind of the only vibe I have, which is funny because people come to my YouTube channel and they're like, oh, I really like the vibe and everything positive and chill or whatever. I'm like, yeah, that's all I got. This is it. Like,
That's just you.
I'm glad you appreciate it because this is all I'm bringing to the table.
I'm glad you like the single vibe we serve here.
Exactly.
Speaking of serving, here is a question that I always ask people because I like to stir up trouble in the comments. And if you think any of these opinions are wrong and bad, put them in the comments and feed that YouTube engagement going. But I always like to ask people what their most controversial food take is. And what do I mean by that? Well, my most controversial food take is that you can make a perfectly normal piece of French toast, but you don't put any vanilla in the batter if you're going to do this, because that's obscene. And you fry it up as normal, and then instead of putting syrup and butter on it, you can put some butter on it, and then you serve it with ketchup. And I think that is a fine, savory thing to have for brunch, and everybody else looks at me like I'm a lunatic, and I'm prepared to admit that it is horrible sounding, but not that bad to eat. If you could get over the psychic damage you'd take from ingesting it, you'd find it would be tolerable, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Man, if you served me that, I feel like you'd be challenging our friendship.
Oh no, this is not something I've ever forced anyone to eat. Like, this is like when I have breakfast, like if we have brunch at home, like Graham and our daughter Penelope, they will have normal French toast like regular human beings, and then I will have the ketchup to myself. And I've never, like, I've been married to Graham for like since 2009. No, when did I get married? I can't even remember. But it's been a long time, and I've never forced him to eat this, right? Because I love him and want to remain married.
It just makes me wonder, are you one of those people who says that ketchup on mac and cheese is good too?
Yes.
Like, you're in that boat. Oh,
Yeah, ketchup on eggs, ketchup on mac and cheese.
Ketchup on eggs
just
doesn't
wait
bother
till
me.
you hear mine.
I can do ketchup on eggs. That doesn't bother me too much. Mac and cheese, it's I've had some. It's all right. It's, you know.
I mean, boxed mac and cheese isn't that good anyhow. So
See,
you may as well
now
put some on.
next time I have French
love
toast,
Kraft.
I'm gonna have to put a little ketchup on it, and just to see.
Just to see, just like
Yeah.
cut off like one square.
Yeah, I just
like a
want to see
postage stamp.
what that's about. The thing is, I'm gonna be afraid that if I actually like it, I'm gonna be like, oh no.
You can't tell anyone.
Yeah,
though.
exactly. I'm gonna have to go to the grave with that one.
That's fine. That's just like you're making breakfast. Your partner's out there. She's like, "Are you done?" It's like 1 second. I'm not done yet. You're having
Yeah,
like a
exactly.
slice of French toast.
Like, what do you need ketchup for? Don't ask any questions. Like,
Yeah. I think I've accidentally let slip a second controversial food opinion, is that I'm not a huge fan of boxed mac and cheese. And then I saw Zbexx and Chase going,
I love boxed mac and cheese.
The fake cheese is so good.
The
They used to
chemicals is what makes it taste good.
They used to sell that on its own where you could get the powdered cheese. I don't know if they do it anymore, but I loved that.
there's a store in downtown Victoria called Bulk Barn where you can just buy a bag of it. You can just fill your own bag with boxed mac and cheese powder.
If Customs doesn't have a problem with it.
They probably do.
You're traveling over the border with a big bag of yellow powder. That's really cursed.
It was just being like a
check
random
my
bulk
bag.
food bag
Yeah.
too, but this time.
Like, do you have any agriculture you're taking back across the border? No, sir. What the
all
hell is this
fake.
big
It's
bag?
technically legally a pesticide, but
But there's that.
Actually?
There's that.
no,
Oh, thank God.
I don't know anything about agriculture.
You had a lot of convincing there. I was like, probably if you sprinkle this on a plant, it might die.
It probably would.
No, I don't think I hate box mac and cheese. It's actually all right. Like, the thing is, obviously the other mac and cheese is better, but like I'll still eat box mac and cheese. Like, it's fine.
Yeah, me too. But like
Yeah.
homemade mac and cheese with the cheese sauce and stuff, no ketchup on that.
Sure.
Craft
for sure.
dinner, ketchup. But also,
Okay, that's fair. That's
I
fair. You're
forgot
not trying
y'all
to.
call it craft dinner here.
Yes.
Yeah, you're not trying to ruin
It's a
somebody's
term.
like good
It's a
work on
term.
mac and
It's called
cheese, but the
craft
box it can take a beating. You're
Yeah,
all right.
exactly.
Yeah, okay. I can appreciate that.
Okay. Well, if we step back to only one conflict.
Yeah, that one's not so bad. I think we're on board with the
No,
second one.
I'm vibing with it. Like, I do love my box mac and cheese, though.
All right, mine are just gonna get me blown up. So
I could go.
yeah.
Mine is. It's not about it's just the way people eat a certain food. I know it freaks. I don't understand why, but like anytime someone eats a pizza, if they fold it so that when they put it in their mouth, it's kind of like full, kind of like a sandwich. You bite it. You're just only tongue on crust. You're not getting the innards. You're just getting like when you fold it and you bite it, you're just getting tongue on crust. That's all you're tasting is the crust. The bottom part. You want to bite it so that you could taste like all of it, but you fold it like a sandwich. So when you eat it like that, you're just getting like teeny bits of like sauce flavor with crust.
But do you turn it upside down? Because otherwise, no matter how I bite it, it's gonna be crust,
Well,
right? on
yeah,
my
but if
tongue.
you fold it, that's extra work.
But then how do you eat like the big floppy slices, the thin crust? Like,
If I have that at my house, I'm a degenerate. I will use a fork and a knife because if it flops,
I love using a
flops.
fork and a knife with everything. We just become best friends.
like true story. One of the times we went out to Pizza Hut, and when I was younger, and I remember seeing people eat pizza with a fork and a knife for the first time, and I was like, "Mom, look, these people they're using a fork on their pizza." And she's like, "Yes, son, people do that." I'm like, but why? Like,
I do it if
because
it's
that's like the whole point.
floppy.
You get to eat it with your hands.
but if it's too floppy, it's gonna
grease
down,
runs
you
all
know.
over you,
So
and
like I'll eat
that's
with a fork and a knife.
man, there are New Yorkers that are lighting up the comments right now. Like,
Excellent, do it.
get them.
But like the thing is I don't even eat crust really. I don't like crust because like unless you put like a nice like seasoning or like a garlic
Sure.
thing on there, or if
That's
you
fair.
do cheese stuff, then I'm gonna eat it. But if it's just like bread, I'm just gonna eat the good part
Yeah,
and then I give the
some
crust
people don't like
away.
the pizza bones. I get that.
No,
pizza
yeah.
bones.
I'm the same way. I just leave the bones behind.
Yeah,
We're grown-ups here.
I know, right?
I just
we're
grown-ups.
sophisticated.
I'm the one that just said
Cutting it
pizza bones. I'm like I'm that guy.
I'm half and half. I'll eat them if I'm hungry, and then if I start getting full, they get abandoned.
Yeah.
Ooh, yeah. This is
Fair.
not good enough to like devote full
Yeah.
stomach.
Yeah, I
space
gotta
to.
save all the cheese room in my stomach. No more bread.
All right. So
All right,
aside
you
from
want to get lit up first or me?
yeah, we got ketchup where it should not be. We've got fork and knife pizza.
Well, I don't like condiments.
That one hurts. That one actually
So
hurts.
I eat almost everything dry. My salad, I'll do a little bit of vinaigrette, but I like dip my fork in it and then kind of spin it around the salad, and that was it for the entire salad.
Oh.
I don't like ketchup. I don't like mustard. I don't like mayonnaise. Like, basically, I like peanut butter sandwiches. Ate those a lot as a kid. Was very good at making those on my own. Don't like jelly. I don't like jam. Like, soy sauce is okay. And marinara sauce on spaghetti, okay. But I've been told that those things don't count as condiments. So I
Yeah,
really
not
don't
really.
like condiments. They're gross.
That breaks my heart. That's like my favorite thing to buy at the store. It's like condiments.
Yeah, people come over and they're like, "Oh, do you have ketchup?" Or like, my partner eats Dijon mustard, so I'm like, "Well, we got mustard, but beyond that, like,
on a salad too, though. Like I'm a goblin with ranch dressing on a salad.
I
Like,
don't mind the taste of like arugula and fresh greens. Like, I don't go for the iceberg so much because it's just water, but I like vegetables.
I like
As
them
they
too,
are.
and they're even better covered in like cheese.
Cheese goes with everything. I think we can all agree on that. Sounds like it.
Absolutely. All right, so dry. So I'm going to be served a dry hot dog at your house.
Yeah, I will only have.
well, they have cheese.
Yeah, I'm gonna have cheese.
Okay.
I'm okay with some chili on there.
I was
'cause
about to say, what about a
Okay,
chili
that's
dog?
cool.
Okay.
yeah, that's
Because that's not a condiment. That's a separate
I will probably
ingredient.
use a fork and knife as I'm eating my chili dog. I have literally done that many a times.
Oh my gosh.
I always ask for a knife at restaurants, like when they aren't provided, and they're like, "What?" I'm like, "I need this."
Now, okay, question. Like, do you go to sporting events?
Yes.
Do you get hot dogs at sporting events?
Not typically.
Okay, because I was about to ask, like, what do you do in those scenarios? Because I don't think
like-
I've ever even seen them available.
Pretzels and nacho cheese, which is nacho cheese a condiment? I don't really think.
I would say
I
yes.
would say because it's like a dip thing.
Because you
Yeah.
you pour it on, you know.
I guess
It's
that'd be
like
the
halfway.
one I like, but we already covered cheese is okay.
Yeah.
So
Nacho cheese is never. I don't think I've ever seen solid nacho cheese, so I would count it like a condiment.
okay, so I like one condiment.
We're growing. We're learning here. All right, what are we going to?
Okay, first one, vanilla's not that great. I just don't even understand. Like, when you go and you have 50 different flavors to pick from, why you would just pick vanilla. It's like almost never do I select it.
Sometimes I get vanilla, but only if I'm gonna put like hot fudge or like caramel sauce on top. 'Cause
Oh, yeah,
I don't
like-
want to like overpower the
Yeah,
palate.
for me, that's like coffee. Like, I when I'm done with my coffee, it looks like hot chocolate. Like,
Yeah.
there's a bunch of other stuff in it, right? Like, I can't, just having the plain thing doesn't work for me. And I've never understood that. Like, but it's the most popular flavor. And I don't understand because it kind of has the least flavor. So it's never made sense to me. I'm just like, okay, well, people like what they like, but
Do you think it gets by on being a legacy flavor? Do you think it's like back in the 1700s when we hadn't thought of salted caramel yet? That vanilla was all we could do, and it's just sort of carried
there
on.
may be some carryover there. Like, it's like, to be fair, I guess it's easy to put with everything. Because, like, you can have it with almost any ice cream or whatever. It's not going to be like a competing flavor, I guess.
Well, it
but,
doesn't
like,
go with marinara sauce.
Well, yeah, it doesn't. I don't know if I've done that in ice cream for sure.
Ooh, new food challenge unlocked though.
Yeah, I got a lot of things I got to
Sun-dried
try
tomato
now. So, like,
ice cream.
things are happening over here. No, the one that really gets me in trouble though is because I ate a lot of sweets. I'm basically an 8-year-old trapped in a 40-year-old body. But chocolate chip cookies, real low on my ranking of cookies. But hear me out though.
Is your first one oatmeal raisin?
No, hear me out for a second. Like, I won't not eat chocolate chip cookies. I'm still gonna eat the cookies.
Yeah.
But they're always offered everywhere.
Yeah.
So if I'm given a choice, I almost never look at the chocolate chip cookie. Because, like, literally every fast food restaurant, everywhere, like, if they offer cookies, it's almost always a chocolate chip cookie. So I can get it whenever I want it. So I almost just ignore chocolate chip cookies whenever they're offered.
Oh,
I literally start at the other options.
What is the best flavor of cookie?
Yeah.
There's a lot. Like, I like peanut butter cookies, oatmeal raisins, snickerdoodles. Like, just go down the list. I will crush some cookies. But also, oh man, this goes deeper too, because like crunchy cookies I hate. I don't do crunchy, crispy cookies. I like soft.
What about a Biscoff? They're
I like
crunchy.
soft baked. That's barely a cookie though for me.
Thank you.
That's
I will agree
barely a
with
cookie.
that. That's airplane food.
Oh,
Because
Yeah,
every time I go on,
I do like Biscoff. They're good
they give
flavor,
you-
but they're barely a cookie.
I would agree with that.
They're almost like a graham cracker, more than an actual cookie.
I would say they're more like well, I mean, I know it's called Biscoff, but like they're more like biscotti to me. Like they're like a
Kinda.
tool with which you dunk in coffee.
Yeah.
Not something I would go for dessert today. I'm gonna get a Biscoff.
But like I remember when Chips Ahoy came out with their soft brand or whatever. I killed a whole bag of those in like 20 minutes.
even
Like,
though it was
seriously.
chocolate chip.
Yeah, like because they're soft. Like
Yeah.
but crunchy. I don't care for the crunchy Chips Ahoy at all.
How do you feel about Ghirardelli's triple chocolate chip cookie? Have you had that?
Yeah, those are good.
Okay.
I mean, like no, that's what I'm saying. I'll still eat them.
Okay.
But if they were sitting next to a pile of oatmeal raisin cookies, we're shoving those aside, and I'm crushing the oatmeal raisin cookies.
I knew it. Okay.
Oh, I mean, but it could be. It could just well be snickerdoodle. Still eating those before the chocolate
I
chip.
think you're good.
Okay, but like still, I feel like it's this very special take to be like, I'm like middling on chocolate chip cookies, but oatmeal raisin, I would eat those. You might be the only person within like a 50-mile
That might be
radius
the
who
case.
holds this opinion.
That might be the case.
I just realized I had another controversial food opinion.
Please.
Is I was taught this in middle school and I like to do it now, but how I like to eat cupcakes is a little different than most people do. Like when you get the cupcake, you
Oh, yeah, you
peel
just
the
do the
wrapper.
sandwich?
Yeah, you
yeah,
like
that's
rip off the
common.
bottom, you smush it, and then you eat it like a teeny
Yeah,
little
that's not
sandwich.
even that weird. A lot of
That's
people
a
do that.
great hack.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
like it because then I don't know, it just feels more quaint.
What I like to do is I like to take off the bottom of the cupcake, the nubbin,
The meat.
and then just eat that taste the cake, and then I get what I really want, which is an inch of frosting on
Gotcha.
like an inch of cake, like a goblin, just perfect sugar.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I'm trying to think about other food things. Like, how do y'all feel about Alfredo sauce?
It's not my favorite. Like, if it was like that was the only option, I would eat it.
Like, my issue is I feel like there's such a wide range in quality when I've had Alfredo. So, like, and I always feel like I'm gambling if I see it on a menu because I'm like, this is going to be really great or it might be really bad. So, like, if I see it on a menu, I just stay away from it.
I like Alfredo sauce, but I almost never ordered at a restaurant because there is like the homemade Alfredo sauce where it's just basically, Parmesan and garlic and butter and stuff like that. And then there is sometimes when you go to a restaurant where it's like, all right, so we've made a roux with flour and it's like 2% milk and we've stirred in like some salt and like a tablespoon of Parmesan and now we've coated your noodles in it.
And it just tastes a little off and sometimes it's a touch like gritty almost. Like I'm just, I can't. It's like,
from the flour, right?
Yeah.
So like, no.
I love Alfredo sauce, and it used to be primarily the only thing that I made spaghetti with, but then I was using marinara, and it was tasting too tomatoey and ketchup-y, so then now I just make noodles, and I sprinkle Parmesan cheese on them, and it goes sauceless.
Have you tried making like a garlic butter sauce?
No, but maybe I will.
That's really good,
I do
actually.
like garlic.
You can do like cacio e pepe.
I was just thinking that, literally.
Ooh, like a pepper.
Yeah.
Ooh, I have had that at a restaurant before, so
And
maybe
it's
I'll
easy to
try
make
that.
at home.
One final food thing I think is kind of funny. This isn't even a food opinion. I just saw it online one day and I thought it was really funny. Is like if someone walked up to you and they're like, "Would you like 4 string cheese sticks?" And you're like, "No, that's too much." But then they're like, "Okay, would you like these 4 mozzarella sticks?" And you're like, "Why, yes, I would." I always find that kind of funny.
You
it's
said
the
that?
same
I
thing.
literally would have taken both of them. Like, I mean, like you said that, and I'm like, yeah, I like cheese sticks. I'll take 4
Well,
of them.
I feel like if I were to sit down and eat 4 cheese sticks at once, I'd be like, that's a lot of like string cheese to eat at once. But then if like at like most restaurants, you're like, here's mozzarella sticks as an appetizer, I'm like, that makes sense.
Do you feel you have to pull the strings out of the string cheese?
Yes.
No, I don't.
I don't
I'm a
either.
degenerate. I go
Yes.
chomp chomp.
Same.
Chompa
I
chompa.
do. I just see. I told
Just
you.
eat normal cheese.
I knew I was gonna get blown out for these, but like, I do. Well, because like I'll get it while I'm snacking and I'm editing or whatever. So
Right.
one hand's like clicking buttons or whatever. Anyway, I'm not gonna like rip it with my teeth while I eat it.
Well, the
so.
string in string cheese is not a command. It's a
Yeah,
suggestion.
sure.
One day I want to like take a bunch of string cheese and make like a rope out of it or something like that.
I just
Do a little
realized all
braid.
you wanted from
Yeah.
viewers are like, these people seem neat, and then we started talking about our food preference. We're like, I hate these people.
Yeah.
Like,
We're all going to lose subs on our YouTube channels now. It's going to be a disaster.
Oh, no.
Well, this has been a very fun discussion, but it is time to wrap things up. But before we go, if you have been like, wow, I didn't know these people before, and now they're amazing, and I have to follow them and see where they are and take in their wonderful content, where can our viewers find you, Chase?
Excellent. Hello. You can find me everywhere at Mana Curves. I post a lot of my content on Twitter. I also stream Commander gameplay and deck building on Twitch. I write articles for Star City Games, and I also have a podcast wherever you can find podcasts, and also on YouTube called Bad at Magic with my lovely co-host EK Plays Cards.
Zbexx?
Hello, everyone. I'm Zbexx. At Zbexx is where you can find me everywhere, ZBEXX. I make a lot of short-form video content on TikTok. I also do a ton of cosplays, mostly Magic, but other fandoms as well. You can find photos on Instagram and Twitter. I have a YouTube as well, where my current project has been Magic Storytime with Gina and Xena, my co-host Covert Go Gina. And I do stream occasionally on Twitch as well. So anywhere at Zbexx is where you can find me. And remember, you are fabulous.
Aw. You can just find me just about everywhere at PowrDragn, spelled weird. It's POWRDRAGN. Mostly on Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch most of the time, but I am everywhere. And we do have a podcast called Color of Magic where we talk about the more serious issues in gaming and magic. So you can check that out too if you want to look that up pretty much everywhere you get your podcasts.
I can tell that you've been online for a long time because of how your how your name is spelled. It's dropping the vowels. To me, that's like
there's a story of that username being like 25 years old at this point, something like that.
And
So,
that's
like,
that's what you did. You dropped the vowels and then you got the
Yep.
name that you wanted. Excellent. Well, thank you so much. Thank you so much for being here and answering my mostly terrible questions. Thank you for watching, and thank you to Card Kingdom for sponsoring this podcast. Remember, Card Kingdom ships fast, packaged in a union shop, and has an affiliate code LRR, and you can say Loading Ready Run sent me button, please, and of course, from your kind support of our Patreon at patreon.com/loadingreadyrun. And that's going to be it. Bye-bye, everybody.